I'd like to call this meeting to order since there is a quorum present. We have a few items that we need to discuss in executive session, so I'd like to entertain a motion.
I make a motion to close pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071.
Second?
I'll second.
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Please excuse us while we convene in executive session.
Okay.
Okay, it is 5:34, and we are reconvening in open session. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have one item that was discussed in executive session that does require action.
Yes, I make a motion that that we authorize the settlement as discussed in the closed executive session. Item here, please. Just go ahead and make the arrangements for the dispute on the easement, as discussed in closed executive session.
Second, first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Buziak, a report?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, a couple things I've handed out. We have our strategic planning meeting this February 14th at 8:15 at the Southmost Regional Water Authority. Should have been notified of that, and any board members that hadn't asked, would be good. We're trying to wrap that strategic plan up. This next coming Monday is a holiday, President's Day. We're closed. Tonight we have the external audit presentation tonight, and also the financial report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Sandro Garcia, Chief Financial Officer for Brownsville PUB. Today we are going to start with the presentation, some brief overview of our audit report. Our external auditor, Patillo Brown & Hill, has completed all their field work and has looked at our document. It's still in the draft form. That's why tonight is just for information. We'll come back at a later time for actual acceptance once we have the documents fully reviewed and quality check and everything that it's covered, and we can come back and present it to you. Tonight, Mr. Carlos Casas will give you an overview. He was our external officer, and take over.
Good evening. My name is Carlos Casas. I'm a partner with the firm of Patillo Brown & Hill. We previously met with the Finance Committee made up of Mr. Villarreal, Mr. Guerra, Mr. Farias. Mr. Buziak was there, the accounting personnel were there. We went over in detail this audited financial statement. I want to take the opportunity to first of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to conduct your external audit. Also, at this point, I want to tell you what we told the Finance Committee. Let me briefly explain. I will speak a little bit slower. I kind of rushed it the last time because you all were in a tight schedule, and I think the meeting went a little bit longer than was anticipated. Let me please advise you what an audit is not. We always hear about whenever there's something that goes wrong, either in the finances or something, I think the first folks that they point to after the chairman is the external audit. You know, how come the auditors didn't catch it, the internal auditors didn't catch it, whatever. The financial audit that we prepare the mechanisms and the audit programs that we use are not geared or structured to catch embezzlements, fraud, defalcations, things of that nature. That's just not the purpose of a financial audit. During our audit, what we do is we select numerous transactions. Keep in mind that PUB generates thousands and thousands of transactions in any given fiscal year. Obviously, it would be somewhat impossible for us to audit every single transaction that the Public Utilities Board encounters throughout the year. So we randomly select transactions and disbursements, we select payroll files, we select, revenue files, etc., and we test those transactions. Now, based on those tests, it does a couple of things. One, it tells us if the policies that the board has enacted over the years are being properly followed. You all, as management, give your accounting staff and your management administration certain directives throughout this process, throughout the years. So when we go into test, we test to make sure that those policies and procedures are being adhered to. If we select your population, let's say, as an example, that 20% of the population that we selected has a flaw in it, whether the invoice isn't right, the purchase order isn't right, the requisition, the payment of the check, whatever it is, if 20% of that population is flawed, we can pretty much ascertain that 20% of your total population is flawed. So if that happens, then we come back to management and to you all, say, you know, we found 20% of your population, you know, there's something wrong here. So either your policies and procedures are not being followed or they are. At that point in time, the administration or management tells us, you know what, go ahead and expand your scope. Go ahead and select more and see if it's a consistent 20%. That did not happen here. Very rarely through our testing will we come up with an adjusting entry. An adjusting entry is an accounting entry that we give to management if we find something. As an example, if we send out bank confirmations and a bank confirmation comes back and it shows that you've got $100,000 more in an account than what you showed somehow, then that would require an adjustment. We would make that recommendation to the administration. We recommend that you make this adjustment. Keep in mind that these financial statements are your financial statements. Our role, aside from the testing, is to give you an opinion on those financial statements as to whether or not they're fairly stated. The financial condition of PUB is as strong as I've seen it, stronger than the year before. If you go once you get to the financial statements, you have $52 million in unrestricted assets, which means that it's your fund balance, basically, that you have. It's your net, if you're going, you know, Mr. Stein, if you're going to private enterprise, $52 million worth of unrestricted retained earnings is what you have. That's slightly better than the prior year. The other component of the financial statement that we discussed is the management's discussion and analysis. That is something that's relatively new as a result of GASB 34 several years ago. That MD&A, as it's referred to, is also part of these financial statements. That will show you comparative information. The Public Utilities Board has decided to show you 3 years worth of comparative. It'll show you the 2007, the 2006, and the 2005. Normally, it's anywhere from 2 to 4 years of a comparison. So if you want to see and compare the numbers of what PUB did in terms of assets, liabilities, fund balances, revenues, expenditures, and changing net assets, you can go to the management discussion and analysis, and that will tell you what the trends have been. The Public Utilities Board has earned an unqualified opinion. And for those of y'all that are in the viewing audience, an unqualified opinion in the accounting terminology is a good thing. That is the most favorable opinion that any independent accounting firm can give to any entity. Let me give you some really brief examples as to what a qualified opinion would be. First of all, an unqualified opinion is an opinion that we tell you that your financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. Our role is not to tell you that these numbers are exact numbers, because they're not exact numbers. And for the reason being, because throughout the year you may have some posting errors, you know, where you may post something as office supplies and it really should have gone under data processing supplies. I mean, it's not a big deal really to us. From your perspective, it might be, but for us, we look at the bottom line and we look to see that the statements are fair, not exact. If you look at the opinions, everywhere we never say that they are true and correct to the best of our ability. They are fairly stated. And that's the generic terminology that all accounting firms use. A qualification is born by several things. We have several clients that, for whatever reason, let's say they have their ad valorem taxes on their financial statements, and we have a big number, but they don't have a real good detail of what makes up those ad valorem taxes. So the number may be right, but we don't have a good subsidiary ledger. So in that case, we have to qualify the opinion. We would say something like, the financial statements are fairly stated with the exception of property taxes. Another common qualification is for fixed assets, where you know what your fixed assets are, you know you've got desks, you know you've got all these other fixed assets, but you don't have a real good detailed general ledger as to where the assets are, the values, you know, on an individual basis, so that would be another reason to qualify. I ask that you cherish this opinion, because it is something that the Public Utilities Board over the years has earned. It's not an opinion that we dole out just like cookies. It's something that you earn based on the financial performance and the integrity of your financial condition. So that is earned. My compliments to the PUB Board and your management, your administration, and your finance people. So you must cherish that, because those unqualified opinions, once you lose them, they're kind of hard to get back. Like I've said, we've got several clients at our firm that have been unable to earn an unqualified opinion. They're working on it, but it does take some time. So, because of our testing, that generates a management letter. I will tell you that PUB is only the second client that we've done that has not received a management letter. That does not mean to say that everything was perfect, but it does mean to say that if we found something was quickly resolved, if a document was missing, we're not going to write you up saying, well, it should have been under file A, but it was in file B. You know, we give management the opportunity to cure some of these things. Nothing came to our attention that would rise to the level of us having to report it to you. We don't get paid based on the number of comments that we make, nor the number of adjustments that we make. We get paid to test your financial, your records, and give you the opinion that corroborates what you have before you. So with that, this is only the second client that we've ever done that has come back not only with an unqualified opinion, but also no management comments. Again, as I prefaced earlier, this audit is not meant to detect any other types of things that you may have encountered, whether someone is taking money or using PVC pipe where they shouldn't. That's not the purpose of this audit. There are other engagements that we can do where we can go in and specifically, you know, if you all want to look at something specific, that we can do, but that's a separate engagement. That's called an agreed upon procedures engagement, where we'd be hired to do something specific like that. But as far as this is a financial audit, we're very, very proud to be able to give you that clean opinion. You've earned it. Take care of it. And with that, I'd like to open it up for questions if y'all have any at this time.
So, Mr. Chairman, may I?
Of course.
Judge, so to analyze, let's say, for example, the electrical purchases on the electrical grid, the Southwest National Grid, the wheeling and the transmission costs and all the extra costs of that electricity being sent down here to Brownsville, did you all...
Nothing that we would look at.
Nothing, you all are for that?
No, sir. That's
We
not.
can't hire you to look at that and analyze that?
Well, I'm not saying that you can't, but that's not what we were hired to do in this case. On something like that, I would probably tell, let me see what it looks like, and if we don't have the expertise to do that, we will tell you we don't have the expertise to do that. But I'd have to look at exactly what you want to do, and then just take it from there.
Actually, on that, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Sanchez, that was an audit of Tenasco, which has been done and will be presented next month. So we will have that audit be presented next month. They were audited independently, and that very thing will be presented next month.
But we pay those extra charges, not Tenasco.
We paid for the audit
Oh, we paid for the audit
of Tenasco.
of
To see
Tenasco.
if they're,
But what about the audit of all the wheeling and
that's what's in
transmission?
there.
It's in there,
That's
okay.
what's in. Yes.
See, in that particular audit, and I'm just assuming, they would not give you an opinion on the financial condition of PUB. They would give you an opinion on that specific segment of your operations, if I understand.
Any other questions?
That'll be next.
Well, I just had a comment, just to repeat your comments, Carlos, that we have a non-qualified statement, which is basically the best results that we can get on a financial statement, I guess, analysis that your company's done.
Yes, sir.
If I may add, Mr. Chairman, and the General Manager can attest to this, and this is before Carlos Casco's engagement to do the audit for PUB. PUB at one time got a management letter, and we had a lot of issues to address. I guess in the past 3 years, we've come a long ways. We were very close to getting a qualified audit. we came out of it, and we are in a position where you have issued a qualified audit. And I think it's been because of the work the board passed before you got here, and the staff and everybody put into it to correct those points that were listed in the management letter, which were very serious at the time.
Judge, thank you very much for your diligent work.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may be excused. Any other questions from anybody?
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you all.
Also,
Before I do, I do want to thank this man and his staff for all the work that they did. You have a good team. Try to keep them.
And that's what I wanted to say. I do want to commend Mr. Cutler's staff. They were diligent, timely, professional. Most of the work was done electronically, very efficient. So we're here today, February 11th, with a almost complete report. And that's very commendable. I also want to thank all our staff, accounting and finance, like Mr. Cutler said, that we're very involved with this project and very timely and professional as well.
yeah, also, Alejandro, we want to congratulate you. You do outstanding work, and that unqualified team is very difficult, not only to get, but to maintain. And so, congratulations for it.
Thank you. We are going to pursue designation again this year with the GFOA for the reporting, the excellence in achievement and reporting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Financial report.
Financial report?
This is a brief overview of our financial performance through the end of the first quarter, December 31st, 2007. This slide summarizes revenues through the end of the first quarter. Through December, we had total revenues, net operating revenues of $38,558,000. Gross revenues after adding in interest from investments and other revenues and income totaled $40,779,498. Backing out the fuel and wholesale expenses in the Southmost Regional Water Authority, we're left with a net adjusted gross earnings of $25,826,743. This, as you all know, is the base for calculating the city transfer, which up through the first quarter totals $2,582,674. On the expense side, through the end of December, we had total expenses of $10,367,310, combination of O&M and non-operating expenses. Debt service of $5,620,557, for a total requirement, here again excluding the fuel and Southmost, of $15,987,867. That leaves a balance available surplus of $8,852,967. That balance, we've transferred it as earmarked through the budget to the various operating accounts or reserve accounts. $1,596,765 has gone to the city. That was a $2.5 million net of the usage of $985,909, leaving a balance of $7.2 million for PUB. $7.2 million has gone to the various reserve accounts, starting with the first one, operating reserve, $250,000. That we have $1 million target for this fiscal year 08, so that represents a quarter of that. The operating sub-account for the fuel adjustment, $500,000. We have $2 million earmarked in 08 for that reserve, and we do anticipate utilizing it this summer. All projections at this time for fuel is that the fuel costs are going to be increasing here in the spring and summer months. CIP funding was budgeted at $16.2 million. Through the first quarter, we're at $4,065,000. And our improvement reserve fund, with an annual budget of $3 million, is at $750,000. Total transfers out to budgeted reserves is $5.5 million, leaving $1.6 million as improvement fund surplus, undesignated surplus at this point. Just for comparison with prior year and budgeted, current net operating revenues of $38.6 are below our budgeted amount of $40 million by $1.4 million, and a little below actual in 07. Gross gross revenues, slightly below budgeted in '07 numbers. Adjusted gross revenues, a little over our budgeted amount by 2.3 million or 9.8%, and 900,000 over our 2007 actuals for the same time period. Fuel cost, we see a variance here of 1.7 million when we compare the actual 13.2 and the 14.9 budgeted. A little under our 2007 actual 13.8 also. On the O&M side, we are continuing to look for ways to defer or to find cost savings. We are at 1.1 million below budgeted amount of 11 million. We're at 9.9 million actual, and a little higher than 2007 actual of 9.5. Here again, capturing the balance available surplus, 8.9 versus budgeted 4.4, ahead of the game here. Available transfers out 7.3 versus 3.1, and the CLB cash transfer is 1.6 versus 1.3 budgeted. This graph shows the source of the surplus, most of it coming from electric, 7.39, $500,000 from water, and a little under 100,000 from wastewater. What I've included for this month on a quarterly basis from here on is just an overview of where each division is with regards to their budget. If you find this useful, I'll continue it, but I wanted to highlight here the total by division. That first division is communications and admin services. Their total year-to-date budget is $698,000. They have spent $606, so they're looking at a favorable balance or being under budget by $92,000. One of the orgs is a little over budget, $5,000, not much, but that reflects additional requirements for hepatitis vaccines and additional recognition type of activities for employees. On the customer service division, they're looking at a favorable variance of $357,941. All orgs here, all departments are pretty much favorable except the billing. We have experienced increases in postage requirements, so that 12,000 is a result of increased postage requirements. Electric transmission distribution is looking at a favorable balance overall of $353,000. We are experiencing some additional personnel and material type requirements for our electric T&D maintenance, and our electric meter shop is experiencing overtime as well, here in response to customer needs. The environmental division is experiencing a $52,000 favorable variance. They spent $511 compared to the year-to-date budget of $563. The finance division is also $70,587 favorable. The only department here experiencing over budget requirements is the fleet management, and they have experienced additional requirements for outside maintenance services. We have experienced an increase in vehicles getting into accidents or equipment needing repair, so they are a little ahead of budget there. The general manager's overall division is under $120,000. A couple of departments there, the board, the directors, and the human resources are over budget. The board of directors reflects increased need for legal fees. That $57,000, the majority of that is legal fees over the first quarter of the year. And then human resources as well has experienced legal fee requirements. The power supply, we had budgeted an annual requirement of $67 million for fuel, $22 million through the first quarter, and have actual expenses of $13 million, leaving a favorable variance of $9.2 million. The assistant contingency account is pretty much in line with year-to-date amounts. That $446,000 represents contracts carried over, encumbrances from prior years, so they don't reflect the current year budget, but they are supported with prior year funds. And then the water and wastewater below is $315,000 under budget. A couple of departments there, the operations and construction and the Robindale, are experiencing additional requirements. The Robindale state fees that we paid here in the first quarter, the water and wastewater operations and construction, just maintenance requirements for meter and distribution mains. So, hopefully this will give you a feel for what how each department's doing, year to date, and I may continue doing this on a quarterly basis. Overall, the 10 million is really reflective of the total budget. If you back out 9.2 million, the fuel is a big number that you saw on fuel. We're left with a favorable variance of 1.6 million. Couple of slides here on the consumption. We're ahead on the electric side by 12,406 kWh. That is a 4.2% increase year to date over actual 2007. On the water side, we're 38,000 gallons over actual 2007. That's a 2.6% favorable variance as well. And we're hoping to see that blue line continue an upward trend there. Same thing with wastewater, ahead of the 2007 actuals by 63,000 gallons. CIP, we're at 16.7% through the first quarter. Our annual budget of $53,688,000. We spent $8.9 million, most of it coming from water and wastewater, $4.5 million, $3.1 million for electric. And that concludes the financial performance review.
Are there any questions for Leandro?
I have a question.
Projects can be accomplished through short-term debt, interim financing. And that's why we're bringing a related item to you concerning that policy. But we're having to look at the system needs. They are capital intensive, and financing is required for system expansions and improvements.
May, Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
Let me recognize Mr. Farias.
I guess, as a comment, when we were at the Finance Committee meeting and we looked at this presentation, it's a very good presentation where we're looking at taking our commercial paper notes, which are basically for short-term purposes. Ideally, once it gets to over 270 days, we should do something with that short-term paper. What I guess as an example as to how I envision what PUB wants to do is that they made a major purchase with the purchase of the Oakland Union station, and ideally that $40 million purchase is a major purchase that we need to really seriously consider from moving from a floating rate environment, which we have right now, a rate environment which has pushed downward. And so even though we might have a favorable interest rate on our commercial paper, that doesn't guarantee our interest rate risk over the long run. So the idea of putting a major purchase into a long-term debt does make sense, and I understand why the Finance Committee is recommending that we go ahead and go into this financing of long-term and to take that major purchase out of short-term paper.
Mary?
And I echo what my colleague here just stated, because by law, we can only carry short-term debt for a certain period of time. So we have to look at the long-term picture. And if we were to try to pay it off in the short term, we would have to raise astronomically, which then would not make it feasible. And the cost of money also is the incentive for us to roll that short-term debt into the long-term. This is for the public to understand, and my colleague over here.
Yes, sir.
And this is the overall plan in the best interest of the system, okay? Which also benefits the ratepayer to where they're not hit hard up front with astronomical rates to service like that.
Well, and I appreciate that explanation, but we're not looking at the whole picture. Council should maybe, and maybe she don't want to do it here, but maybe next session, you got to look at the whole picture and see what other monies are going to come in from that fiasco back then. I'm just a believer of knocking debt down. You got civic activists screaming about debt. I'm a citizen. They're citizens. This community should be concerned about debt. Let's not add and add and add on. This board and the commissioners should be a mindset of no more debt. I talked about that when I got appointed on here in 2004. And we've tried our best to not do that here at PUB. I think The debt's come down about $50 million since then, but, you know, just from servicing the debt. And, you know, with all respect, and, you know, y'all can take it either way, but, and with all respect, Mr. Farias and Mr. Villarreal, y'all are bankers. You guys are fine with loans and long-term and all that. And I just wanted to say that. I'm a businessman. I'm not. I want to chip away at that debt as fast as we could. That's why it's nice when you have a board. You have different ideas. And that's all I have.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I appreciate that, Mr. Sanchez, but as bankers, you know, we do have different experiences, and I think that this is a model that is not a static model. You do not get in the car and just put on the key and do not push on the gas pedal and think that everything's gonna be automatic. And so when you go ahead and say a statement that no more debt, well, this company is not a static company. It's a moving company, it's a moving target. We have a lot of visionary responsibility as to what makes sense for the PUB, and in some cases, that does make sense.
I mean, I have to just remind, that $40 million is a lot of money. It doesn't matter who you are. $40 million is a good chunk of change. I just want to remind the public, and because it was stated here, but just very clearly, that this money was used to buy a coal plant and increased our percentage ownership in a coal plant local union. And that was done before I was on the board. I don't know, Mayor, if you were on the board, right? I commend that board and the city commission and our financial advisors for buying that coal plant, because the cost of energy that we get from that coal plant as compared to all of our other sources is how much less expensive, John?
$1 million savings a year.
Considerable.
How much is it?
A third of the cost.
It's a third of the cost. We have saved the ratepayers on their bill 67%. And so when when these opportunities arise, yes, everybody has to work together. And that was a very good example of the board that was previous, sitting here at this table, and the city commission working together to get it done. I kind of compare it to what we had to do is we found a great deal on a house, and we needed to buy it, so we put it on a credit card. Well, it's not advisable to keep that on a credit card for a long period of time. You got to get a mortgage, because you match long-term assets with long-term debt. The key is, and the question at the end of the day is, was that purchase, did it make sense? Was it in the best interest of the ratepayers? And by all measures, it was absolutely the best. I wish we could have bought more, okay, but we didn't have that opportunity. But all these items are very, very, very good discussion. Thank you very much for
One more, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add, to conclude, during that period of time, it was a very precarious financial time for PUB to manage the state. We had no reserves, and when this opportunity came up, we saw that we could not let it go by, and we figured out a way to do it, and this was the only way to acquire it and pay for it that would make it feasible for the citizens to enjoy the rate savings. So the long-term financing is in the plan for PUB, and it should be commended as a major accomplishment under very, very difficult circumstances.
Thank you. One last comment by Mr. Sanchez.
Well, I appreciate all the commentary everybody made, and by no means am I putting down the $40 million purchase of the Oakley Union. You've explained it very well, and I'm very happy that tax boards purchased that share of the Oakley Union. But this is a simple world. There's no reason to make it more complicated. No matter what I've heard up here, I'm still a believer, knock the debt down and chip away at it. And I know there's a way to do it. But out of respect to your agenda, Mr. Chairman, I don't think you'll allow me to get into the specifics of what I'm talking about. But there is a way, ladies and gentlemen, to chip away at a good chunk of that debt. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, this is an action to approve. Okay, there's a first, do we have a second?
Second.
Any further debate? Good. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
One nay, motion passes. Thank you. very much, Mr. Jordan.
Sure.
Okay, item number 8, consideration and approval of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board Finance Committee Charter. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, on February 6th, we presented a draft document to the Finance Committee with intent to establish a charter for the Finance Committee. Most of the document primarily focuses on relationships with the external and internal auditor, but it does cover relationships with financial advisors, oversight over rate studies, financing plans, and other finance requirements, contracts with depository banks, et cetera. One of the items of discussion that took place is on page 3 of the document, and how the Finance Committee will oversee some of the activity with the internal auditor. At the request of the committee, we did modify the language on 5C, which reads, any changes to the plan scope of management's internal audit plan that the committee determines advisable, and this is something the Finance Committee shall oversee. We did add that the internal auditor would present or shall present to the Finance Committee Chairman any required changes to the audit plan to accommodate unscheduled assignments. The committee chairman shall collaborate with the full committee, the board chairman, and the general manager to approve audit plan changes. So it kind of lays out the relationship, as I mentioned, with the external and internal auditor, and hopefully we'll establish that protocol that's needed for proper reporting, management, due process to management to respond to findings, and to the committee to address the findings as well.
Any questions for Mr. Garcia? None?
Make a motion, we adopt the plan as presented.
Second.
First and a second, any further debate? None, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Item number 9, consideration and approval of requesting for the Public Utilities Board of Brownsville, Texas to establish a financial management policy for issuing commercial paper notes. Mr. Garcia.
Part of our discussion in the previous item was how we intend to proceed once we do refund the $40 million. How do we intend to proceed with using the CP program? We do have a $50 million program in place. We have the right entities involved, the dealer, the paying agents, and the letter of credit. What we're trying to establish is continued use through a policy, and what this stresses is upon approval of the board of a CIP plan with projects delineated for funding on commercial paper, then we're seeking the authority during the course of the year as commercial paper proceeds are needed, is to grant management the authority to issue the notes and then report back to the board. This should be, of course, for projects that are approved in the CIP plan, clearly earmarked with funding out of CP, commercial paper. And here again, it more than likely will involve water and wastewater projects. So the electric has been very fortunate to have the surplus to commit at least $16 million a year for ongoing improvements. As you saw earlier in the presentation, the surplus contribution from water and wastewater is very nominal. So we are going to be needing in the future interim financing for water and wastewater projects. So we would establish a budget, accordingly. It does lay out the term of the notes, the percentage of the outstanding debt to the overall debt. Currently, we have $290 million outstanding long-term debt. At 20% cap, that would limit the short-term debt to $58 million. So the $50 million falls within that. And as we pay down any long-term debt, then we would plan accordingly as well. We're going to continue with funding under the ratios with internal generated cash, 15 to 30% equity contribution. And then we'll just report back to the board when it's time to take it out. At a minimum $15 million, we wouldn't come to you to refund a $5 or $10 million balance, but upwards of $15 million, 2025, just upward refunding $40 million at this time. So we do recommend this policy. The committee did recommend it or authorize us to bring it to the full board on February 6th.
Any questions for Mr. Garcia? This is an action item.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the financial management policy for issuing commercial paper notes as presented to us.
Second. A first and a second, any debate? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Item number 10, consideration approval of 2 new meter reader positions. Why are we approving Why does it seem to come to the board? Is this not a management discretion?
That would be increase in personnel in the budget.
Okay.
So
We are recommending new positions, 2 new positions. The funding would be absorbed, but, the statistics have been analyzed, and the requirement for 2, and the benefits of having 2 additionals are, been established.
But John, this has to come to the board?
Well, if the board approves a certain number of positions in the budget,
Yeah, but I mean,
if we're gonna go above that, we usually let the board know that we're.
as a courtesy to the board,
We
you
can,
have
and we can
discretion.
afford to pay for it, yeah.
But you have the discretion to do it.
Yeah, but if you tell me we only can have 468 employees,
Which
at
we
the end of the year,
never
we have 470, you go, what happened here? You didn't, that's, we're letting you know.
You're telling us that we think you need it?
Yeah,
Okay, then I make a motion to approve the 2 extra.
I think we need more.
right.
There's a first.
I second.
Is there a second?
I second.
There's a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Item number 11. Consideration and approval to amend the fiscal year 2008 O&M budget for the purchase of ThermalGuard for odor control. Mr. Garcia.
And as a correction, the agenda item really was revised to just do the contract approval. We won't need a budget amendment on this. We are funding it with maintenance dollars, so the agenda item itself is for us to stay on that. Anyway, so we are recommending a contract here to continue our purchase of magnesium hydroxide for ThermalGuard with Premier Chemicals. Let me read this here. In September 2007, the PUB discontinued use of ThermalGuard in order to evaluate order in the collection system and to restart the newly designed biofilter program. In December 2007, and during the evaluation process of the new biofilter program, BPUB began receiving order complaints. BPUB resumed the use of ThermalGuard, which diminished the order complaints. The chemical purchase was necessary through the months of December 2007 and January 2008, with a needed purchase of 25,939 gallons, a negotiated price of $1.87 per gallon, for a total cost of $48,505. At this time, we are continuing, we do plan to continue the use of ThermalGuard through December 31st, 2008, at the $1.87 that the vendor provided us. So the combined amount that we've used, the $48,000, and moving forward, we have a requirement of $688,648. We're asking for authorization to contract for $737,154 with Premier Chemicals.
Any questions for Mr. Garcia?
The biofilter program did not work.
It is still under design. Gigi, you want to?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, in order for the biofilters to work, we need to bring down the parts per million for the odor to about an average of 100 parts per million. Right now, we have some of the lift stations that are up to like 2,000 parts per million. In order for us to do that, we need to use the magnesium hydroxide. And then at that point, once we bring it down the level, the biofilters will work. And it's going to be a combination. We're going to be adding the magnesium hydroxide, not only on the north side, but also on the south side, and we have a few biofilters already working at this time.
So for the biofilter to work, you have to get it down to a certain level for it to work, and there's just no other way to increase the biofilter's capacity, or that's really the only design?
We have one of the worst amounts of sulfite in the system.
Mm-hmm. And that's what causes the order?
We've tried other things, and this is what has worked.
But there's just no other way to get around
As
either
this
spending
time.
money on this ThermalGuard or to increase the capacity of the biofilter.
That's correct. And we're treating more flows. Also, that's why the amount of money that we're spending on the chemicals has increased.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I make a motion that we adopt recommendation.
Second.
First and second, any further debate? I just, real quick, down to, where, is this is not within the budget, correct?
We are using maintenance monies. We do budget, we did include some wastewater emergency maintenance type unexpected scheduled.
So it's not gonna have adverse funds effect on our budget?
No, we can cover it within the wastewater.
Any other debate? First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Okay. Item number 12, consideration and approval of bid award for the purchase of flow meters and the rejection of bid for valves at the North Wastewater Treatment Plant. Mr. Garcia?
The meters and, the flow meters and the valves were part of a 2006 bid that, along with rash pumps, was deferred because of how the respondents responded. We did award the rash pumps back in early '07, so back this fall, we did proceed with issuing a request for bids for the valves and the meters. At this time, we are recommending the purchase of the flow meters and rejection of the pumps. The pumps are requiring more review. They did not come, or the vendor didn't provide the material or equipment that met the specifications, so we'll proceed with a future release on the pumps. But the meters did comply with the request.
Is that pumps or valves? I'm sorry.
The valves, I'm sorry, the valves. The pumps we did in '06, '07,
Yeah.
the flow meters and the valves are.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the recommendation to authorize the expenditure of $26,500 for the meters and to reject the bid for the valves.
There's a first, is there a second?
Second.
Any debate? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, if it's okay with the board, could we possibly group items number 13, 14, and 16? If anybody has any issues?
I make a motion we adopt 13, 14, and 16.
Okay, that's the consideration and approval of wastewater treatment plant blower repairs. Item number 13, item number 14, consideration and approval of payment for required sledge hauling services during transition to new sledge hauling operations.
Could you stop at 15 and let's hear on 16? I would like to hear.
Sure.
the motions.
Would you amend your motion?
13 and 14, yes.
Is there a?
I'll second it.
No, you did mention 15.
Okay, 13 and 14.
Okay.
13 and 14, there's a second by Mr. Sanchez. Any debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Action item number 13 and 14 pass. Item number 15, consideration and approval of water and wastewater utility adjustments for FM 802, US 7783 to FM 1847, roadway widening project. I understand that, Mr. Garcia, you wish that this item be tabled?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Garcia? Is there a first?
Make a motion.
Motion on the table by Mayor Amala, second by Mr. Farias. Any debate? All those in favor? Motion passes. Item number 16, consideration and approval of change order number 2 for the construction services involved in Valle Hermoso and Valle Escondido and Valle Salido wastewater improvements project. Mr. Gomez?
Not exactly.
Inside.
Nice try, Mr. Chairman. This item is,
I meant the G.
thank you so much for the
Fernando,
comment.
please.
This is change order number 2 to this particular item, which is a project that we're doing for the community. The first change order was presented to you for a small change. This second change order is for a little bit larger amount of money, but is the project that as you get out to we're going to be making the modifications to the system. Not all is known when you get out there, and as you discover some of these problems, change orders will come up. Although this change order is really, it falls within what we needed to report to you as a good practice, we're here before you to present to you this change order that was required due to some of the realignment of the gravity feed lines that caused us to tear up some of the highway. And then having to repair the highway, we've incurred additional costs to the project. So we're asking for the board to approve the change order that was required in order for us to complete this task. When you look at the total number of dollars required, the total changes to the contract amount to 3.3%, which is not very large as compared to the original project that we brought to you. Therefore, PUB staff recommends approval of change order number 2 for construction services involved in the Valle Hermoso, Valle Escondido, and El Salado wastewater improvement project for amount not to exceed $82,329.41, for a new contract total of $3,279,162.61.
Any questions for Mr. Sines?
What's 1419? What part of Market Road 1419?
What part of what, I'm sorry?
Where is it? I mean, what, does it have another name to it, or?
Southmost Road.
Southmost Road.
Yeah, I was wondering, for instance, just the old prior one was 1847, I had to think about what was 1847. By Evans Line Road.
Right.
So I would suggest that next time I know you have to do it because the tech dot calls them those things, you know.
Put in
So
a-
you can put in there like, Evans Line Road, Southmost, helps us. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Sines from the mayor?
Mr. Sines, I'm not very familiar with these requests here, but shouldn't the developer pay for this?
The developer is the city who's engaged in this project to bring the services to that part of the community.
But
Yeah, we got a grant.
What you mean by
you
developer?
got grants for it? Okay, so this was not something that should have been done by some other parties? Or
There-
should have been done, wasn't done, now we have to come back and do it? We're getting grants for it, that's what you're saying?
What is done when we take on one of these projects is the best guess as to what's out there underneath the ground, because we don't know the area. As you go out there and you dig around, you find that the utilities aren't exactly where you expected them to be, so there's realignment that needs to be completed. In this case, we had to realign the gravity feed line. That means that there's no pumping involved. It was inside the right of way of right underneath the pavement. So as you tear it up, because you really didn't know where it was, this is an area unknown.
So
to
it's
the
something
utility.
we're inheriting that we had no control of when it was developed?
Now, if I were
Is that what
telling you
you're saying?
about,
Is that what you're saying?
this is what I'm saying, if it was my system and I had a fair idea of where my utilities are, I could tell you with more certainty, but this is somebody else's facility,
But there's supposed to be engineering plans out there to let us know where everything is at.
and we have them for our system, yes.
I wish they would do it the way we do.
Amazing.
Yes. Any other questions for Mr. Sines? This is an action item.
Make a motion to approve the additional budget.
Second.
First and a second, any further debate? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
I would say.
One abstention, motion passes. Action, agenda item number 17, consideration and approval to award engineering planning contract of a proposed energy control and incident command center phase 1. Mr. Sines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This one item is one that we've had, the mayor had asked us to take a look at, working with the city and other entities on co-locating with the Energy Control Center, to co-locate the Incident Command Center for the community, as well as in discussions with the city, the National Weather Service. That's kind of been brought into the review of this particular item, so that we can make one good decision for the entire community. We selected Robert Lamb to do the engineering and architectural design of the facility. Part of what they're gonna do in phase 1 is to ascertain all of the needs that we as the PUB have, as well as whether this makes sense for us to build on that particular site. Is that a good site? Is it subject to the storm surge if the storm were to come into the area? All those decisions need to be made up front before a lot more money is invested into this project. As well as, does it make sense for this to piggyback with the city's needs for incident command center and the National Weather Service and the like. So phase 1, as they break out these projects, is before you, and that's the conceptual design. Is it a good location? What's needed? How many square feet of building are needed? What wind loading do you need to have to secure the inhabitants of that building during a storm? All that is in kind of the discovery phase, to the point that they'll bring in a conceptual design, maybe of the look of the building, and the right location for the building. Phase 1 then will proceed into phase 2, which is where they, upon approval of the board, would then proceed into the actual design. And in the actual design phase, they get all the technical specs together that will be presented then to you later, so that they can be let out for bid. There'll be a fee for that second phase as well. And then the third phase, obviously, is once you got the design and the location, is to do the construction. They can participate in the construction phase, or we can find somebody else to help with the construction phase. That again will be at the discretion of recommendations we make to you and decisions that you make. So, long story short, phase 1 is before you, and that's the conceptual design. Just wanted to let you know we're working with other entities at the same time. We began with a scope of $68,000 that they initially brought to us, and have pared it down to a $50,850 range, plus the travel expenses that would be incurred to come and develop the conceptual design for it.
What, questions for Mr. Garcia?
I make a motion, we, you don't have a...
Mr. Gomez, Mr. Garcia?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Stein. It's just, I gotta say, you're up here
Yeah.
80% of the time.
Make a motion to adopt, authorize the expenditures of up to $50,850 as recommended by staff.
Okay, there's first, is there a second?
Second, and making sure that it includes plus reimbursable travel.
I have one quick, comment. Just because we use land for the first phase doesn't tie us to the second or the third phase. I mean, we are buying the conceptual, the drawings, the plans that just occurred.
We're going phase by phase.
Any, further debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Consent agenda items, and I understand that on, consent agenda item number 6, we need to pull that and address that separately, correct?
Okay, we've got a cancel lot for some of the items.
Okay, can we possibly move on items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 on the consent agenda items?
The only thing I have on item number 1 on the minute, just a note on page 7 of the minute, Mr. Koppel's name, I believe, is spelled with K instead of a C. Other than that, I would make a motion, we adopt, approve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7.
Second.
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Item number 6, consideration and approval of bid award for the annual supply of electrical inventory material. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, this item is awarding different types of materials for our inventory to various vendors for annual supply of electrical type materials. We are recommending Texas Electric Co-op from Georgetown receive $69,145.80 as they proposed some of their equipment and materials. Stewart C. Irby from San Antonio, $53L3920. KBS Electrical from San Antonio, $91,418. Techline Inc. from San Antonio, $78,487.60. HD Supply Utilities from San Antonio, $36,888.40. And First Mike Meow and Mitchelson from San Antonio, $961.20. We do have items 430 and 64 from the bid to be handled through the cash in the loss. And that goes to $26,332. So at this time,
We're going to select one or three?
three.
Mr. Chairman, four is Techline Inc. Mr. Chairman. Number 4 is Stewart C. Irby. I'm sorry, that's number 30. 30. There it is.
Mr. Chairman.
Number 64 is HD Supply Utilities. And it says your bid item number 65, but it's actually, oh, that was 65?
Yes, the second one was 30.
I thought we were pulling 3.
4, 30, and 64.
64 or 65?
4, yeah, 64.
Okay, we have 4 is Techline Inc., 30 is Stewart Irby, correct? And according to this agenda item, we have 64.
It's 64.
Okay, so bid item, it just says 65 here, and I just want to make sure if I'm, that they just corrected on the slip.
It should be 64?
64.
Okay, so it should be 64.
That one right?
So all in all, the request is for
HD
HD Supply.
HD Supply.
So the total request is for $350,272.20.
Very good. This is an action item. Is there any questions for Mr. Garcia?
I make a motion, we, approve the bid, for a total of $350,272.20. and those support, including the three drawn lots.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, any debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for coming. Have some,